Every year, the gaming industry seems to make progress in the VR space, with interesting titles that experiment with gameplay experiences. The latest trends have seen ideas from how gamers interact with physics-based objects in a VR environment. When it comes to The Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners, Skybound Entertainment and Skydance Interactive have brought those ideas to PlayStation VR. However, this experience ends up being held back by the hardware's limitations. The story follows a protagonist named The Tourist, who's passing through New Orleans with a fellow survivor in search of a locked-down bunker called the Reserve. Rumor has it that the Reserve holds a large amount of weaponry and food to last for months. However, after a violent event, the survivor uses his last breath to guide the tourist on the whereabouts of this haven. It is then up to players to find the hidden bunker regardless of the walkers and the rivaling factions that get in the way. The story is, unfortunately, one of the weaker parts of Saints and Sinners, especially compared to its comic book and TV counterparts that made the Walking Dead franchise popular in the first place. What The Walking Dead is known for is providing information on the cast so fans can feel more immersed in their lives. This adds a sense of humanity in a post-apocalyptic setting. The only characters that Saints and Sinners focus on is the main protagonist and a faceless survivor over the radio named Casey. Given that the main character is meant to be portrayed as the player, he or she is originless. Meanwhile, Casey pretty much leads the conversation entirely in my 18-hour playthrough. The lack of story elements made the consequences non-existent in an established franchise where decisions aren't so black and white. Without spoiling the story, a later mission had me choose to help a bad guy in exchange for some key items. However, given that I didn't know or care about this guy, I killed him. This made a faction side with me for a while, but the next time I encountered them, they were hostile towards me. This gives me the impression that the developer tried to incorporate deeper interactions with NPCs, but without executing the system entirely. Thankfully, the gameplay in Saints and Sinners had me most impressed with the VR experience. Adding to early ideas of first-person VR titles, items and weapons have weight and inertia to them, which means that in addition to larger items feeling sluggish and unwilling to use with one hand, they also need a particular handling to be effective. Driving screwdrivers into a walker's skull takes more effort than sharper weapons, like shivs and knives, as well as shotguns that need more than a simple movement from a controller that uses the pump to load the next shell. It also needs the feeling of leverage to do it efficiently. Saints and Sinners is played on a day cycle system that allows for one mission outside of the safe zone per day. As each day passes, specific item categories are seen less often, like food, medicines, and high damage ammo. There are 3 upgradable crafting benches for range, melee, and consumables. Both blueprints and the benches themselves need ingredients and parts from salvage items. Given that everything found is pretty much considered a limited source, there's an added challenge when trying to decide if crafting something is crucial or if it's better to wait a few days and craft something more substantial. The developer did a fantastic job of making New Orleans part of the Walking Dead universe. Everything is open to the player to explore and even allows them to climb up the side of buildings or crawl through a house's foundation to evade enemies and strategize a sneak attack. It's this level of immersion that makes you feel like you're part of the post-apocalyptic world, and it's one of the game's strongest features. The most significant criticism I can give to Saints and Sinners is actually the platform that it's on. PSVR has a tendency to lose tracking when the Move controller lights are in the way of the headset's lights from the camera, causing drifting at the worst times, like in the middle of a gunfight with a large group. Also, the Move controller is still the most awkward way to control a character in a first-person title. Sundance Interactive uses the most tried and true method of pointing the controller in the direction where the player wants to go, but making small adjustments or strafing just comes off as clumsy.
Shit's about tower politics. Nothing better to do?
Much of what holds back The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners on the PS4 is the hardware. The game does its best to work around these limitations, but it only ends up hindering the overall immersion. Sure, the story is lacking in its narrative as you go through the game without any real attachment to characters, but there's just something so satisfying about kitting out and heading into a zombie-infested world. Noisy Pixel is giving The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners a 7 out of 10. Thanks for watching. Noisy Pixel is ran by a group of gamers who work hard to give you news, reviews, previews, and more. Please subscribe and click the bell to keep up with all of our latest videos.